Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for another episode of Added Time, the weekly series where I answer your questions that you kindly submitted yesterday. Really good topics to discuss and debate today. So before we get into any of that, I want to ask you guys, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you never miss an upload. Nearly at 8k subs, about over 20 subs away now, which would be a brilliant landmark for the channel, which hopefully we hit this week. So let's get into your questions because there's quite a few to get to. Firstly, We Breathe Chelsea asks, favourite ex-player and favourite current player. Favourite ex-player is our current head coach, Frank Lampard, and favourite current player is between Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Antonio Rudiger. Carefree Momo A asks, thoughts on Ross Barkley playing an important role next season. I think Ross could absolutely have an important role next season. Look at his performances against Liverpool and Everton. You could argue he was man of the match in both of those games. He scored against Liverpool, that brilliant goal that clinched the game. And then in Everton, he really played well, really dominated that midfield. I think it was about 6 key passes. I think he made 1 assist in that game, or 1 or 2 assists. Really influential and really decisive, which was something we haven't seen a lot consistently from Ross Barkley. If he does that, I think Frank, of course, wants to add big names and improve this squad. But I think you can't just discard players. You know, I think even if you look back at Chelsea's best teams, the title-winning teams, there were players within there that you wouldn't consider to be world-class, but were really big in the system. But if he continues to play the way he was before lockdown, I think he can get more minutes, absolutely. Tyrese asks, would you sign Ousmane Dembélé from Barca with the apparent cut in his price? Probably not. I feel he's had injury, consistency problems, but I wouldn't be surprised if Dembélé is on Chelsea's radar just because it's an area Chelsea are going to need to improve on. So, along with Ziyech that they already have. So I wouldn't be surprised if he is on the list, but I think for the amount of money that apparently Barca would still be asking for, I think there are probably better options, if I'm being honest, that Chelsea could go for. Still a young player, could still come to be a brilliant player, but I just don't think Chelsea will potentially go in for him, if I'm being honest. Harris asks, would you like to see Jose Mourinho and Frank Lampard ending their managerial careers at Chelsea just like Sir Alex Ferguson did at Man United? Personally, a big yes for me. I'd love to see Frank end his managerial career at Chelsea. I'd love for him to stay at Chelsea for 20 years. That sounds crazy because in the modern game that just rarely ever happens. I don't think it will happen again. Something like Alex Ferguson, something like Arsene Wenger. I just think we're past that time now. Based on patience, based on just the way football works, head coaches, you know, the setups at clubs, it's very different. Just having that one figure that's dominant in your club, I just don't think it's the same anymore. I think, you know, the best Lampard could hope for, I think, at Chelsea would be 4 to 5 years, something like Jurgen Klopp has done, but he's going to need patience and he's going to need to be successful as well. Jose, I think there's too many burnt bridges now. I think he's already been here twice. He's done a lot. I still personally think he's Chelsea's greatest ever manager. I think what the influence he had, not only his time here, what he won, what he transformed at Chelsea, and the legacy he left, I think even went all the way up to us winning the Champions League in 2012. So you can never forget what Jose done for the club, but I think based on what he's done since, I just think the style of football, what he implements in teams now, I just don't think is very modern. I just don't think his style of football is good enough and effective enough at the top of the game anymore. 5X asks, any surprise out of the blue names we might see in a transfer window like Ziyech? I've been surprised at the amount of midfielders Chelsea have been linked with, so that could be a very big surprise if Chelsea were to sign one of those midfielders we've talked about. Strikers, maybe a bigger striker than you'd expect coming in for Chelsea, like Aubameyang. I don't think a Mertens is going to be realistic anymore with apparently him staying at Napoli. Dembele, Timo Werner, I think is hot set on Liverpool. Maybe something like that, because I fully expect a striker would be of maybe a lower rank than you'd probably expect to compete with Tammy. That could be a surprise, or Chelsea spending big on a central defender. I think that could be a big thing for Chelsea. Vialli's Chelsea, great Twitter account, great guy. Definitely suggest you go and follow his account on Twitter. He asks, as Bayern have let the option to buy Coutinho expire, should the Blues buy him? Also, Joshua King at cut price with a year left on his contract, worth a punt. Firstly, I think Joshua King, yes, absolutely. I think it is worth a punt. I think consistent Premier League goal scorer. I think realistically, what you're looking at this summer in terms of what Chelsea are actually going to be able to do, I think King is a really good option. It wouldn't take him long to get used to playing for Chelsea. He's a Premier League player. He's used to playing in the country and used to playing in the league. Coutinho, it's all gone quiet, hasn't it, on him? And just about, you know, midfielders, the amount of midfielders we've been linked to, I've always believed and still believe, even if there are some convincing arguments, I think Coutinho will be a luxury signing. I think one midfielder would have to leave for him to come in. And I think that, you know, there's a lot to go for that to happen. And from the sources I trust, more legitimate sources, have always said that it's more a case of Barcelona offering Coutinho to other clubs rather than Chelsea actively pursuing Coutinho. And with other players, other midfielders being linked for Chelsea that are younger than Coutinho, I'm not entirely sure. It's never really gone past a certain stage for me, so I think it's probably unlikely at this stage Chelsea will go out and splash the cash for Coutinho. Daniel Sinclair asked, what midfield combination would you play next season from Kante, Jorginho, Kovacic, or Mount, Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Gilmour? That is an interesting question, an interesting dilemma, I have to say. The first midfield combination we've seen a lot of, Kante, Jorginho, Kovacic, probably not enough for my liking because, of course, Kante's fitness and also changing the formation at times. I feel at times it has been really effective for Chelsea. I think on two specific occasions, the Super Cup against Liverpool way back in August, I thought Kante was exceptional that night, and I thought the way that midfield worked and blended together and controlled the midfield, especially in that first half, was brilliant. So you've got a world-class player in N'Golo Kante. Jorginho can be brilliant if he has the right movement in front of him, and Kovacic for me is, in some people's opinions, world-class. I think he's going to become world-class very soon. He's Chelsea's player of the season. So if you're looking for control and good passing and good movement, and players who are very much in the prime of their career, I think that's the midfielder you're going for. The other midfield we haven't seen, mainly because Ruben Loftus-Cheek's injury. You know, if Ruben Loftus-Cheek comes back, we could absolutely see this midfield. I think you'd have to understand this midfield could be more open, could be more exposed, a very attacking and progressive midfield, in the sense that I think Mount is a very raw player, can go forward. Ruben definitely improved on the defensive side of his game under Sarri. That's what Sarri really coached into him, and understanding the two sides of that game, being a central midfielder. But Mount and Ruben Loftus-Cheek bombing in front of Gilmour, especially in a couple years time when those players have developed even further, I think could be the main midfield for Chelsea. Absolutely. I'm going to go the second one simply because we haven't seen it, the futures of maybe Kante and Jorginho as well. I want to see Loftus-Cheek play more for Chelsea, so when he gets back from injury. So that's the midfield I'm going to go for. Patrick O'Brien asks, Havertz for 80 million or Sancho for 100 million. Kai Havertz was astonishing on Saturday against Mönchengladbach. I watched that game in full and he was brilliant. You can understand why so many clubs are after him. Chelsea have been linked to him. Will a deal like that happen this summer? I'm not entirely sure. 80 million, it's going to be a massive fee, but a big club is going to go after him and going to get him because he's going to be a very big player. And I think the thing that impresses me so much about Havertz is his goal influence, scoring goals, being a goal-scoring midfielder, something we don't see as much of in the modern game anymore. And that's something Chelsea have lacked for a number of years, a consistent goal scorer. Now, we may already have that player in Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Mason Mount. So would we spend that money on a player like Havertz when we've actually got players already that can potentially do that job and maybe do it a little bit better in Lampard's system? But Havertz definitely, I think, is going to be world-class eventually, just based on the trajectory, just based on the amount of influence he has on the game. And not only scoring goals, that's very simplifying his game, you know, passing, movement, all those things look so impressive and look so dangerous as well for teams to cope with. Sancho, we know that. We know what Sancho's all about. We know how big of a player he's going to be. We know the influence he already has. It's difficult. I think maybe Jadon Sancho, just based if I'm looking at the Chelsea squad of what Chelsea actually need, I'm going to go over a right winger rather than a central midfielder, in my opinion. And lastly, Jay asks, even though Caballero has signed a new contract, is there still a good chance that we'll sign a goalkeeper to back up, compete with Kepa? I think there could be. Caballero could go out on loan. I think the fact that Chelsea have gone for that certainty of assuring Caballero at that time, I'm not entirely sure. I think Lampard clearly trusts Caballero, clearly felt he did good. He can rely on Caballero's experience when needed. We don't know about the form of Kepa. If Kepa continues to play well, then I think maybe another keeper could be signed. I've spoken about Ben Foster before, and I think that's probably, if you're looking at goalkeepers Chelsea could get this summer, I just don't think, as Matt Law said, Chelsea will fork out about 35 million for like Andre Onana. I don't think they're going to do it this summer because I think they'll prioritise other areas. But that is today's video. Thank you guys so much for submitting your questions. Great to answer them, and apologies to those I didn't get to this week. Once again, next Monday, answering your questions once again. But thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter @SonOfChelsea. And I'll see you again.